Good morning and welcome everyone to another edition of Karmayogi Talks. I am Atul Karwal, Indian Police Service Officer of 1988 batch, and it's a matter of great pleasure and honor to announce that today we have Mr. Geet Sethi as our speaker. A quick introduction, though many of you would have heard of him. He's a 9-time Q Sport World Champion, having won 8 World Billiards titles and 1 World Snookers Masters title. He has been awarded the Arjuna Award, the Khel Ratna Award, and the Padma Shri also. He is also the co-founder of Olympic Gold Quest, OGQ, a not-for-profit foundation supporting Indian athletes who have the potential to win Olympic medals for India. He has also authored a book, Success versus Joy, which is an inspirational book and on mind control. He lives in Ahmedabad with his wife, Geet Sethi. Welcome, Geet, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Atul, and a pleasure to be here on this wonderful platform.
So, Geet, you would know that a lot of officers of civil services are there in the audience, and we would love to learn more from you about your inspirational journey, which is still continuing. So, first, I will pose the question of the present position which India is acquiring as a leader in the world, and with our taking center stage in fora such as the G20. What role do you think sports and stories of Indian athletes can play in shaping the country's global image?
Actually, it's a very interesting question, and there's such a strong correlation between the socio-economic development of a country, and this has been kind of proven if you look at past records. So the strong correlation between socio-economic development and the performance of the country at the Asian Game platform or at the Olympic platform. We are not talking about, the one sport that a country may be very interested in, like India is interested in cricket, and you have Europe and football. But the Olympic platform is the performance at the Olympics is a function of how the whole organizational capacities within the country work. This is the Federation, the Sports Authority of India, government, political will. Everything needs to come together, and we need to be, I think, self-reliant in a way, but we need to also be right up there, cutting edge in terms of technology, in terms of economics, in terms of GDP. And we are at a very interesting phase. It's a terrific question. I think performance in sport, we will find as we go on. LA is coming in a few years now. Well, when is it? 20. We are in 25, 28. So in a couple of years, and we will find that we are performing the graph of performance at the world stage in sport is going up, and it's a very, very important indicator of how we are as a nation deep down, culturally, socio-economically, and I think the political intent. So very, very important, and it builds character. It builds, sport builds, and most importantly, when you have performance, it builds inspiration, and it gives hope to the youth, and we have a huge amount of youth in our country. So I think that perhaps hopefully answers your opening question.
Right. So we have a lot of talent, but as you mentioned, the system could be more nurturing to bring that talent up to the world stage and win medals for the country. How would Olympic Gold Quest, how does it work? How does it contribute to achieving that objective for the country?
So OGQ, was started almost 20 years ago, and we launched. Our first athlete was Gagan Narang, incidentally, who won the bronze medal in rifle shooting in the London Olympics. The mission of OGQ is that we have huge potential, but sometimes the potential is unable to find it's unable to flower because despite a lot of support from everywhere, the minute support is unavailable. And when I say minute support, see, the bulk of support still comes from government, and it comes from federations, and it comes from Sports Authority of India. OGQ is not necessarily spending huge amounts of money, but what we do is we provide a lot of intelligence, a lot of research, a lot of understanding what an athlete really requires. I'll give you a small example. Mary Kom was a world champion in boxing, and she was for the first time going for the London Olympics, where her weight category got included as a medal sport. And our research team did a lot of research and finally found one coach who lived in Liverpool, and he had brought up 5 Thai boxers, all lightweight boxing, and he had made them into world champions. And we went, the team went to him, and he came to India, and he spent 1 month with Mary Kom just to see whether, it was 2 years before the Olympics, just to see whether she loved him, he loved her. They just merged so beautifully. And finally, the expense of this coach, it came into many crores, but it was a fantastic, almost partnership between Sports Authority of India and OGQ. But it is this intelligence that I think we come in, we provide. Of course, we provide support like 24/7 physio support, 24/7 medical support. Injury management is such a crucial part of what we do. So actually, when an athlete gets a top-end athlete or a budding athlete, when they get injured, they don't call their parents up. They call up Yatin at OGQ, or they call up Viren at OGQ. And within, so there is a protocol set in place that within 24 hours, wherever in the world they are, they will be in Bombay. And if it's an orthopedic injury, they will be with Pardiwala, the Dr. Pardiwala, or whatever other injury it is. If it's a muscle injury, they'll be. So that's the kind of we call ourselves, from the police services and the armed forces, we call ourselves, I like to say that we're like a little commando unit, which kind of, comes in.
Like a SWAT unit, which gets in, does the job, and then lets things happen as per the potential and the hard work. Okay.
Yeah, but as we found out, this is a constant job. One Olympics is over, and already we know that, okay, 4 years from now, there's going to be another Olympics.
How many athletes do you support at present? And if you could give us some idea of the performance, what has been there of your proteges over the last 20 years, how many have you helped reach that podium finish?
Actually, I've got it's by now, there's such a huge amount of, athletes we have supported. So I'm just going to run off a few numbers. So of the athletes we've supported, we've got 13 Olympic medal winners in the last 4 editions of the Olympics, 35 Paralympic medal winners, 58 World Para Championship medal winners, 32 World Championship medal winners, 59 Asian Games medal winners. So the list goes on. Your question was how many we support. So currently we are supporting almost 450 odd athletes, of which about 150 are, we call them elite athletes, who are kind of going to be going to LA for the Olympics. And then there are about 150 junior. We've started the junior program where we nurture them from literally age 10 and 11. When we find the research finds talent, we find them and we start nurturing and supporting them, because we find that technique at a very young age has to be really proper for it to then that talent to fulfill itself. So about 150 junior athletes, and over the last 2 Olympic programs, we've started the Paralympic program, and there we have almost 70 Paralympians now that we support. So a total of about 450 from a lovely, humble beginning of one athlete, which was Gagan Naran in 2007.
Great. That's quite a story. And I'm sure the youngsters would be feeling so grateful that not just the government, but something like your organization is with them at their back, at their beck and call, if I can say, for any support that they might require. Now, this must have been inspired to a significant extent By your own journey, when you started as a youngster and achieved this, you dominated the sport for a decade or more. So what are the moments that you can share with us, some pivotal moments in your career that changed how you approached excellence, and not just as a player, but thereafter as a mentor, as a change maker? So please share some stories of your journey to excellence. Uh, all of us would certainly feel inspired.
Well, I think the journey to excellence, and I'm talking to Atul, I'm talking to you, who's kind of excelled in both your service with the police. You've excelled in climbing Mount Everest. I mean, you know, we spend time with a bow tie and an air conditioned room on a billiard table. But I think so. There's so many forms of excellence, but finally I believe, and after spending 40 years in the sport, I believe excellence is about just landing up every day, and landing up every day, not when you have a tournament and not when you have to climb Mount Everest and on the day that you reach the peak, but landing up every day at 5 in the morning, for going for your run, or it's landing up every day at 8 in the morning and practicing for 7 hours. So the consistency of practice is so important. um, uh, I'm a big believer in this, in the concept of concentration, uh, uh, concentration, and what I call subconscious self-belief. And concentration is, I like. There is a definition of concentration by a gentleman called Swami Parthasarathi in a book called the Vedanta Treatise, and I love to share the definition, but then I like to give the example of. From my own field of this definition. So the definition is very simple, one-line definition. He says concentration is the intellect supervising the mind to remain in the present. Intellect supervising the mind to remain in the present. It's a very powerful definition, very spot on. And I give the example to elaborate on this definition of this wonder kid, James Watana, in the 1990s. So James Watana is a Thai 17-year-old snooker player. He wins the World Snooker Championship and goes to England to become professional. And he did very well for the first 2 years. And he's playing the richest prize money tournament ever held in 1991. At that time, 200,000 pounds was the first prize. And he's from a lower middle class family. His mother used to clean snooker tables in a snooker club. And he's playing the final with Jimmy White. He's leading 7-3 in a best of 15 frame final, and he finally ends up losing 8-7. And immediately after the tournament, they take him for an interview, a live interview. It was on live on television. And just, one of the guys was asking, James, what happened? You were leading 7-5 and you were playing so good, and then you lost 8-7. And his answer was so powerful, and it came from very deep down in his gut. It was not I was unlucky, and it came very deep down from his gut. And I put this example in my book, and this is what he said. He said, when I was 8-5 up, or 7-5 or 7-3 up, he said my mind, it traveled to. So this tournament's being played in the NEC, National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham, in England. He said my mind, it went into, and he named a street in Bangkok. He said, it went into this street and it went into this house. He says, I want to buy, with the 200,000 pounds, he says that I think I won. He said, I want to buy this house for my mother. Just imagine the power of the mind. And that's what the definition is, to stay rooted in the present. And his mind, and we were sharing an apartment, and we drove back that night. We slept, and morning when we woke up over a coffee, I asked him, Watana, one quick question. You said that your mind went off, but why didn't you get it back? And he's an uneducated guy, has not finished school. And this was his answer, the most philosophical answer, the most deep answer that he gave me that morning, early morning in 1991. He said, Geet, I thought that I will indulge in that thought for a moment, and then I'll bring my mind back. But he said, now I realize my mind, it has a mind of its own. Very powerful. So wonderful. So concentration is something that we need to build. And I think we can build on concentration with, again, the first thing that I said, by going out there every day. just focusing on what you really do. You don't need to do well, that's my take. I really don't need to do meditation and stuff like that. I need to do meditation on my work. I need to do meditation on my table. My table is my meditation. If I spend 9 hours there, it's 9 hours of meditation. I don't need to go back and sit and kind of, close my eyes. So I think that's a function of excellence. This quality is so important for excellence. Landing up every day, consistency, and then focus, concentration, keeping a rein on your mind. It's like a wild horse. So keeping a rein. And lastly, I believe, not lastly, I do believe that grace is very, very important. Grace, just grace, so much of the universe arranging itself in intricate patterns so that we can do what we do. But lastly, I think taking criticism and feedback is hugely important. We must take criticism. We must learn from our failures. And every time we fail, my game, after winning 2 world titles, I went through a very bad patch. I was in England and I went to the best snooker player at the time. I'm talking of 1991, 92. And I said, Steve Davis, I said, Steve, can you look at me? I'm going through a very bad patch for the last 3 years. I've won 2 world titles. I made a world record and stuff, but I'm going through. And he looked at me. He studied my game for 5 minutes. And he just said one line. He said, Geet, your technique is rubbish. The most beautiful golden words that I've heard. Most beautiful golden words. And I said,
you had won 2 world titles, he called your technique rubbish.
Yeah. And I said, thank you. I came back. I de-learned my whole technique, the old technique, de-learned, and then relearned a new technique with which I won 7 more world titles. So I think, sorry for the long answer, but I think this is what, in excellence, you've got to constantly look for feedback.
No, this was very interesting. 2 things came up. Humility came up, where you were a world champion already, and when somebody junked that achievement and said your technique is rubbish, you could take it as a positive thing of somebody actually correcting you rather than somebody criticizing, being negative, and then you didn't shut your mind to him. You took it as an opportunity of looking at yourself again to see, could this be true? So that humility is so important for us civil servants, because at senior positions, we seem to sometimes have this illusion of I know it all. And if somebody starts picking holes in our work, we don't take it kindly. But I think that humility is extremely important to be able to grow from where we are. That is one I learned from you. Second, you mentioned grace. I think it was a layer of gratitude there that in spite of all this effort, you may not still reach where you might have wanted to reach. And the gratitude that there is some grace which allows us to realize our potential and finally accomplish things. That again is a great thought to have with you through your work, through your career. So thank you for these 2. Yes, you would like to add something, Geet?
I am, as I grow older, I become more and more convinced about grace, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. I want to give a small story again, just re-emphasizing what grace can do, and if without grace, what you become. And I'll make it very quick. So 1984. For the first time, I go to England to play in the circuit there, the snooker circuit. I'm a national champion by then, and we had 3 youngsters. I was 24. Another boy was 25, and another boy was 26. We go to England to find exposure and to pit ourselves against the best players in the world. So that time there was not too much money. We had $600, $700 each, and us. बहुत बढ़िया था, एक टिकट था, रिटर्न टिकट, and we said पैसे खत्म हो जाएंगे, वापस आ जाएंगे. It was such a there were no credit cards. It was a very simple world and very simple thinking. We'll go, पैसे खत्म हो जाएंगे, वापस आ जाएंगे. Long story short, within 4 weeks, money ran out. We played in about 4 tournaments, didn't win much. We were going from tournament to tournament, staying in small little hotels and, struggling. We didn't know the ways. Anyway, the last tournament that we played, we all lost. And we said, now we're going back home. So hum apna Prestatyn Wales say we were crossing a car park to go to the bus stand. We were walking, we did, and to take the coach to Heathrow. We saying Heathrow में जाके ticket विकेट मिलेगा, उधर सो जाएंगे, वापस आएंगे. As we are crossing the car park, coming back to India, in Prestatyn, where this tournament was held, 20 yards away, there was an Indian gentleman closing his boot of his car. He had put his bag, and he was just turning, going to the driver's seat, and he saw us. And he waved to us 20 yards away. We went there, and he said, I'm Praveen Patel, and I'm from, I saw you playing. You're playing so good and you're wonderful. So we said, yeah, I'm the national champion. He's the national snooker champion. He said, wonderful. He said, and where are you going now? And we said, we are going back. We've run out of money. We are going back to Heathrow and then taking a flight back home. You know what he did, Atul? He reopened the car of his boot. He took our bags. He put them in the boot and said, you come with me. We actually thought that he's going to, and then he went to the M1 and he started going down south, from Prestatyn, Wales. We going and we started talking and we thought he's dropping us to Heathrow. We came about 25 miles before we had to take an exit to Heathrow, and instead of taking a right, he takes a left to a small town called Luton. He went and parked his car in front of a small little house, and he rang the bell. This is in 1984. He rang the bell. His wife opened up. He had just been married for 4 months. His wife opened and he said, Ruchita, हमारा भाईबंद छे, हमारी जोड़े रहसे in Gujarati. These are my friends, और ये मेरे साथ रहेंगे. And basically he said, how can you play? आप कैसे खेल सकते हो if you are not practicing? You are so talented and you are practicing. He said, from tomorrow morning, I'm taking you to the club. We'll practice and we'll go for our next tournament. We practiced for 1 week. We stayed in his house. The next tournament I won. O.B. Agrawal and Sanjay Sawant reached the semi-finals. 3,000 pounds I won in 1980. And so the grace, what is the grace? I mentioned the universe arranging itself in such intricate patterns. 20 yards, 5 seconds later, there would have been no car and no Praveen Patel. 5 seconds was all it took. We would have come back demoralized players because we were losers. Well, we didn't do anything there. We would have been demoralized. Who knows what our subconscious self-belief would have been. But that 5 seconds was the perfect timing where this man came. And then, of course, his big-heartedness that we stayed with him for 3 months after that. He took us everywhere. And the beauty is he was an unemployed car mechanic. Now that is grace. So from being losers, subconscious losers, we came back as winners. And what that must have done to our minds, because that same year in October, O.B. Agrawal won the World Snooker Championship. And in 1985, in August, I won the World Billiard Championship. Abhi ye grace nahi hai to kya hai?
Great, thank you for sharing your story, Geet. इससे मुझे याद आया 2 वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड अभी भी आपके नाम के सामने स्टैंड करते हैं जो क्यू स्पोर्ट्स की हिस्ट्री में किसी ने नहीं किया है. आपने 147 स्कोर किया इन कम्पिटिटिव स्नूकर, हिज मैक्सिमम ब्रेक, एंड आल्सो इन कम्पिटिटिव बिलियर्ड्स. आई थिंक 1992 में वर्ल्ड बिलियर्ड चैंपियनशिप में 1276 का ब्रेक बनाया 80 मिनट्स में. ये रिकॉर्ड अभी तक टूटा नहीं है. तो उस समय किस तरह आपने अपने माइंड को उस प्रेजेंट मोमेंट में फोकस करके रखा 80 मिनट तक कि इतनी लंबी ब्रेक जो आज तक कोई दोबारा रेप्लिकेट या रिपीट नहीं कर पा रहा है. प्लीज शेयर सम ऑफ दैट विद अस.
तो ये जो 147 था ये 1988 में बना था नेशनल चैंपियनशिप में, और ये जो 1276 का जो रिकॉर्ड था ये बॉम्बे में हॉलिडे इन होटल था उधर बना था. एंड I think वो tournament में, in fact that 92 tournament was when Steve Davis in 1991 told me your technique is rubbish. मैंने पूरा टेक्निक अपना बदला, उसको पुराना भूला, नए टेक्निक से पहली वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप प्रोफेशनल जीता था. वो टाइम पे मैं ना एक जोन में आ गया था, और ये जो जोन एक हर एथलीट को आता है जब सडनली पॉकेट बहुत बड़ा दिखता है, बॉल बहुत छोटी हो जाती है, और एंड तो ये जोन एक ऐसा जोन, एक वो एक्सपीरियंस हुआ था वो 92 में, और उसके बाद मेरे को 4-5 बार ऐसे जोन एक्सपीरियंस हुए हैं एट वेरियस चैंपियनशिप्स और वेरियस पॉइंट्स ऑफ टाइम। पर वो दिन जो एक जोन था वो कुछ दूसरा ही जोन था। और मुझे याद है इनफैक्ट वो इस ब्रेक के दरमियान अमिताभ बच्चन आए थे उधर मैच देखने, and I actually, because he came in the middle of the break, और मैंने ब्रेक बंद करी, I stopped the focus. I asked him, I requested him, I said, "Aap बैठ जाइए," because he was not coming in and sitting down because I was playing. So I realized that, and there were a lot of people around him. So then I stopped. He sat down. Then I started playing. I think I was 400 when he came in, and then finally 1276 का break हुआ. It is just I think it is सब चीजें, it's a coming together of that focus. It's a coming together. और ये zone एक जब आ जाता है तो it's a blissful moment. It's a very, very blissful moment. And I have experienced actually out of body experiences about 3 times, and one of them was whilst I was playing that break of 1276.
That's interesting. ये अब आपको थोड़ा हमको बताना पड़ेगा आउट ऑफ बॉडी एक्सपीरियंस के बारे में, जो एक फ्लो करके एक डिफाइन होता है कि जब आप खाना पीना थकान टाइम का एहसास पूरा खत्म हो जाता है और उस मोमेंट में इतने आप घुस जाते हैं कि यू डोंट रियलाइज द पैसेज ऑफ टाइम, यू डोंट रियलाइज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग टू द वर्ल्ड एंड यू आर कंप्लीटली इमर्स्ड इन दैट मोमेंट. ये आउट ऑफ बॉडी एक्सपीरियंस आई एम श्योर लिसनर्स वांट टू नो, because this is something coming from your mouth and so personally felt. Please tell us a little more about it.
जैसे मैंने बताया अतुल, it's a state of mind जो आपने इतने साल एक रियाज किया है, वो रियाज का एक कल्मिनेशन होता है, और एक सडनली एक ऐसा इतना इंटेंस वो जोन आ जाता है कि आप you start playing और आप खेल रहे हो और आपको ऑटो मोड पे खेल रहे हो. So there is no intelligence, there is no action from my side. It's just this is यही मेरा जॉब है खेलना, और ये खेल रहा हूँ, and I actually saw myself playing, and I think that is why I said it was very brief, but I actually saw myself playing, and that was the intensity of that. और ये 3 बार हुआ है, एक बार इधर बॉम्बे में, एक बार एक न्यूजीलैंड में हुआ था, और एक बार इंग्लैंड में हुआ था. तो and it happens briefly and then it goes off. तो it's just focus का culmination है वो, और बहुत एक it's a very very पता नहीं क्या वर्ड यूज करूं उसके लिए, वो बहुत अजनबी, peculiar, very freaky kind of experience.
Okay, interesting. Something to learn, something to think about more. I'll have a talk with you hereafter about this, but coming on to the next query I have. आपने किताब लिखी है सक्सेस वर्सेस जॉय, मैंने पढ़ी भी है, आपने कुछ एनेक्डोट्स शेयर की थी मेरे साथ उस बारे में एक बार, और सक्सेस की डेफिनेशन आपके लिए बदली. आपने काफी मेहनत की, फिर आप वर्ल्ड चैंपियन मल्टीपल टाइम्स बने, और अब आप कुछ और परस्यू कर रहे हैं. हाउ हैज द डेफिनेशन ऑफ सक्सेस चेंज फॉर यू, as you mentioned, inner fulfillment versus external achievements? How have they balanced out at this stage in life for you?
ये बहुत लवली क्वेश्चन आपने किया है अतुल. और जब मैं खेल रहा था तो डेफिनेशन ऑफ सक्सेस, सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मैं सक्सेस को ऑलवेज डिफाइन करता हूँ एज अ जॉब वेल डन. And I think the essence of my book is basically saying कि हम society defines success slightly differently. If somebody is famous, you are considered successful. If you are somebody who's got a lot of money, you are considered successful. If somebody is powerful, got a lot of power, they are considered successful. For me, somebody who does a great job in whatever he or she is involved in, if they do a superb job, then for me that is success. And I always give the example of a gardener. gardener who talks to the flowers, who कुछ भी करेगा वो garden उसका फूल जाएगा. But we never talk about a gardener's success because he's not. Media and society have not come together and said, हाँ हम gardening को थोड़ा highlight करें. So success, but he is success or she is successful. So, but your question is very interesting. So earlier, I would think success is ठीक है, playing very well and getting a command over my game because that was my profession. पर आज मैं मानता हूँ कि मेरा वो एक journey जो खिलाड़ी का था, it actually was the conduit with which I had to go through to actually start OGQ. और मेरे को आज OGQ में जो आज OGQ एक बहुत संस्था बन गई है, वो OGQ जो कर रहा है, वो actually my definition of success now is a much broader definition of success. Not mastery. It is not mastery over a silly thing like putting a billiard ball, hitting it with a stick, putting it in so narrow. But to be able to kind of create an environment and platform where you can multiply masteries over so many different fields and so many different people. So I think for me that is more meaningful, and that organization is really what is for me आज success. I define it with that.
Great, thank you for this answer, Geet. It also, if I can see or put it in my words, पहले एक focus था individual excellence पे. You wanted to do it for yourself, and now you want to make it happen for so many other people. So your definition has included many more people than just your personal excellence. So what are the gaps that we need to fulfill to ensure that the talent we have, it reaches its full potential? क्या हमको और initiative लेने की जरूरत है sports के encouragement में, talent के development में?
मैं मानता हूँ कि स्पेसिफिकली हमारे देश में एक तो हमको ज्यादा पैसा डालना पड़ेगा. When I say पैसा, it is the correlation पैसे और sporting achievement की बहुत strong एक correlation है. So क्योंकि पैसे, with money only you will get, see, to have a world class athlete fulfill his potential, you need the support that he gets also has to be world class. You cannot say कि पीवी सिंधु जाएगी, वो खेलेगी, उसका पर फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट वर्ल्ड क्लास नहीं होगा, वो वर्ल्ड क्लास से थोड़ा कम होगा. एंड उसका जो कोच होगा जो उसको साइडलाइन से कर रहा होगा, वो भी थोड़ा आधा पॉइंट नीचे होगा. नहीं, सब कुछ वर्ल्ड क्लास होना चाहिए. सो उसके लिए यू नीड आई थिंक यू नीड मनी. B, I believe we need political will. And I am a firm believer that today, in the last 10, 15, 12, 14 to 15 years, we've got very, very strong political will, where there is genuine intent that the final stakeholder, the athlete, is important. ये नहीं था 30 साल पहले, नहीं था. पहले जो फेडरेशन का चीफ है वो इम्पोर्टेंट था. आज भी थोड़े बहुत हैं ऐसे, but we'll always have exceptions. But today there is आज फर्क पड़ रहा है. So the important is the athlete. ये अगर हम चल के जाएं और बाकी अपने खुद के पावर इक्वेशंस और ईगोज साथ में साइड में कर दें, तो एथलीट को हम के ऊपर फोकस कर सकते हैं. So that is very, very important. It's very powerful. Infrastructure is important. बहुत important चीज है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. और मैं मानता हूं कि अभी हमारे देश और प्रधानमंत्री भी बहुत इंटरेस्टेड हैं और वो पूरे उसके ओलंपिक्स के लिए की तरफ जा रहे हैं. इट्स गोइंग टू डू वंडर्स फॉर आवर नेशन, क्योंकि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के बिना एथलीट कहाँ जाएगा? वी हैव टू सेंड एथलीट्स टू जर्मनी, वी हैव टू सेंड देम टू इंग्लैंड, वी हैव टू सेंड देम फॉर स्विमिंग टू ऑस्ट्रेलिया. तो अगर खुद का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर होगा तो बहुत बहुत फायदा होगा. I genuinely believe that. And finally, we need key people in key places. I'm talking about मैं देश के बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ. तो अच्छे आदमी अच्छी पोस्ट पे जब जाएं और उनको जब काम करना और उनको स्टेक होल्डर जो एथलीट है जब वो होता है, तो we have a winning formula. We really have a winning formula, and then you have lots of now private sector organizations, not for profit organizations like ourselves और भी हैं, और मैं चाहता हूं कि और भी हों जो एथलीट्स को माइक्रो मैनेज सपोर्ट दे सकें. तो इट्स अ विनिंग कॉम्बिनेशन.
Okay. Geet, I wanted to now connect the journey of a civil servant to the journey of a top athlete. Both of them work under tremendous pressure. Both of them have got expectations. They have got goals, objectives. And again, they are time bound. They are deadlines by which you must speak, for example, for an athlete and for a civil servant also. So what kind of advice would you like to share with career civil servants? You have known some of us for the last 20 plus years now, of remaining stress-free, remaining, as you mentioned, consistent and focused on what they have decided to achieve in their job, in their posting. What advice would you want to give them from your long innings?
ये एक्चुअली एडवाइस I should push the question back to you. सिविल सर्वेंट्स के लिए आपको एडवाइस करनी चाहिए. तो आपका जो करियर है और आपने जो जैसे इतनी with such great focus, consciousness, integrity you have done. My only advice, I mean, my only comment यही होगा कि land up every day. We must do introspection every day, especially when we are in positions of power. We have the ability to change. We really have the ability to change so much. तो रोज इंट्रोस्पेक्शन करनी पड़ती है. तो मेरा कमेंट यही होगा कि मैं जो सिविल सर्वेंट्स हैं जो देश की देखभाल कर रहे हैं, जो देश को चला रहे हैं एक्चुअली, उनको मैं यही कमेंट करूंगा कि आप रोज इंट्रोस्पेक्शन करें. पहले 5 साल नहीं, फिर मिडिल के 10 साल नहीं, और लास्ट 10 साल 15 साल नहीं. रोज आपको सोने से पहले आप इंट्रोस्पेक्शन करो कि मैंने किया है, क्या किया है देश के लिए. मैंने देश के लिए किया है, मेरी प्रजा के लिए किया है, कि मैंने खुद के लिए किया है. ये इंट्रोस्पेक्शन आप करेंगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली ठीक है. इट्स अ टग ऑफ वॉर कि मैं अपने लिए करूं कि देश के लिए करूं. ये टग ऑफ वॉर में थोड़ा भी होते रहेगा एक टग ऑफ वॉर, पर अगर इफ इट कैन बी पुल्ड इवन 60% टुवर्ड्स देश, our देश will be a fantastic place.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think I see it in your journey. You were at the peak of your performance, and then you step back while you were at the top and to reflect. And then you changed your priorities to, rather than pushing your own personal excellence with all your concentration, all your energies and your time, फिर आपने एक स्टेप लिया कि अब मुझे और लोगों को जिनके पास इस तरह की फैसिलिटीज, अपॉर्चुनिटीज नहीं है लेकिन टैलेंट है, पोटेंशियल है, उनको मैं कैसे मदद करूं. तो ये चेंज के बीच में जो रिफ्लेक्शन आपने किया होगा, सोचा होगा, तो वो हमसे प्लीज शेयर करें. हाउ डिड यू टेक दिस स्टेप एंड डिसाइडेड टू डू व्हाट यू आर डूइंग नाउ?
तो एक्चुअली ये आइडिया मुझे आया 2000 में. 2000 में I was invited to be part of a dinner जो ओलंपिक कंटिंजेंट सिडनी में दिया गया था. And again मैं गया this time not as a participant, क्योंकि बिलियर्ड्स वो थी नहीं as a medal sport in the Olympics, but it was a dinner hosted by somebody for the Indian contingent. तो सारे officials भी थे, players भी थे, and I saw only despair in their eyes, athletes' eyes. तो फ्लाइट बैक में मैं आया, और उस फ्लाइट पे मैंने बहुत 15-18-20 घंटे की फ्लाइट थी सिडनी से वापस वाया वेरेवर, और मैं ऐसे जितना भी मैं छोटा कर सकूं, कैन आई डू समथिंग, कैन आई मेक जस्ट अ स्मॉल लिटिल फाउंडेशन, मे बी रेज 10 lakhs, बट आई विल सपोर्ट समबडी, सम एथलीट. मैं वापस आया, सीधा प्रकाश पादुकोण को मिला, और प्रकाश पादुकोण ने बोला यस लेट्स डू इट. We both had also gone through our own journeys, and हमने ये संस्था स्थापित कर दी 2001 में। और फिर 5 साल बहुत मैंने आई वेंट विद आज वैसे लोग मुझे एथलीट को सपोर्ट करना है, 5 साल मुझे अंडा मिला। और 2007 में आई गॉट माय फर्स्ट फंडिंग एंड फ्रॉम a gentleman who was the vice chairman of Merrill Lynch, Shitin Desai। और the minute उन्होंने दिया 25 लाख दिया, मैंने उनको बोर्ड पे लिया, we started running। एंड एक ही क्वेश्चन पूछा था शितिन भाई ने कि आपके पास एथलीट है, पैसे तो मांग रहे हो? आई सेड जी, गगन नारंग है, वो बीजिंग जा रहा है, मुझे उसको सपोर्ट करना है। गगन नारंग वांटेड अ सूट। वो सूट्स जो राइफल शूटिंग के लिए पहनते हैं बहुत महंगे होते हैं, 1.5 लाख 2 लाख के होते हैं। And he said, here's the check. And then suddenly, and ये जब मैं देखता हूँ, when I go back and look, हर चीज का टाइम होता है। मैंने ग्रेस की बात करी, हर चीज का टाइम होता है। कैसे मैं मिला शितिन भाई से, कैसे उन्होंने वो चेक लिख दिया, और फिर how the people joined this organization, heavyweights, lightweights, but all with a passion to do something for sport। 15 मेंबर की बोर्ड है और 120 जन की टीम है अभी OGQ में, which is led by वीरेंद्र रस्कीना, who is the ex-captain of the Indian Olympic hockey team। तो ये जर्नी थी, इसकी वजह से मैंने ये आइडिया आया और इम्प्लीमेंट किया। और मैं ऑलवेज लोगों को, मेरी लर्निंग यही है कि 5 साल जब मुझे अंडा मिला तो मैं आई डिड नॉट स्टॉप। जब चांस मिलता था मैं लोगों से पूछता था, मैंने कहा करो करो करो। आई डिड नॉट गेट डिसहार्टेड। So you have to keep plugging away, keep plugging away। टाइम आएगा और काम बनेगा, और काम अच्छा है तो बढ़ेगा।
How nice! This is such a nice, interesting story, and a lot of parallels between this and what we as civil servants face. The first thing which many of us face is that I am too small a cog in the machine, and maybe I can't actually achieve much or initiate a major change. You said plugging away. Start small. You saw those athletes which had the despair in their eyes, because so that triggered that sensitivity, compassion in you. We as civil servants have a lot of interaction with weaker and disadvantaged sections, which bring back that compassion, that sensitivity कि कुछ करना है मुझे. And starting small, even if I keep believing that I can't do much, I can help one person who comes to me as an officer. I can start like that. And then universal energies, as they came together for you, sometimes come together for civil servants also in the shape of very good supportive political will, resources, and then amazing things happen. So remaining sensitive, starting, even if it's very small, with one athlete you started, and look how many people's lives you are impacting now. 450 पैरा एथलीट्स आपने रिसेंटली शुरू किया। आई एम श्योर दे वुड बी सो ग्रेटफुल, क्योंकि उसको कोई बहुत आज की तारीख में एप्रिसिएशन या ऑनर या एक अटेंशन नहीं मिलती होगी। सो ग्रेट लेसन्स फॉर अस, गीत, फ्रॉम योर स्टोरी। जो आपने किताब लिखी, मैं उसमें वापस जाना चाह रहा हूँ, सक्सेस वर्सेस जॉय। मुझे याद है आपने मेंशन किया था that you had cut yourself off from the outside world to an extent, and your world was that table. Now how has that changed now to other people's lives, and what are you doing with that power of focus and concentration which you have brought there? Where are you focusing it now?
So again, बहुत अच्छा है, very very interesting that you pointed this out। तो जब मैं अपना सेल्फ एक स्किल मास्टर करने जा रहा था, तो वो टाइम पे लाइक यू सेड कि आई हैड ककून माई सेल्फ। वेडिंग किसी की होती थी, क्लोज रिलेटिव के कजिन की, आई वुड नॉट गो फॉर अ वेडिंग। बर्थडे पार्टी होती थी, कोई मर गया, कोई किसी का जन्म दिन है, आई वुड जस्ट नॉट गो। एंड एट दैट टाइम it was partly because I did not want to be distracted। कुछ भी हो जाए, मेरे 6 घंटे या 8 घंटे जो टेबल पे रियाज था, वो मैं I thought that was more important than going for somebody's besna or going for somebody's birthday party or going for somebody's wedding। So ये मेरा था up to the, I would think up to the 2005 2007 तक ऐसा था। और मैं मानता हूं कि इमोशन मैंने ना अपनी जिंदगी में कॉन्शियसली वो पहले 25-30 साल कॉन्शियसली इमोशन को सप्रेस किया है टू अचीव मास्टरी ओवर माय गेम। तो आपको आपने ये पॉइंट निकाला है तो मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि माय फादर वाज एक्चुअली ऑन हिज डेथ बेड व्हेन आई वाज प्लेइंग अ टूर्नामेंट इन सिडनी, और मेरे भाई का फोन आया, ही सेड कि यार वेंटिलेटर पे डॉक्टर बोल रहा है, एंड आई सेड भाई उनको वेंटिलेटर पे डाल दो, एंड वेंटिलेटर एंड यू नो एंड ही सेड व्हाट अबाउट यू, आई सेड मैं खेलूंगा, सेमीफाइनल्स था, and I put the phone down and immediately semi-final खेलने गया. I won the semi-final. I finally lost in the final and then I came back. But that was a decision मैंने लिया thanks to a very severe. I'm not saying that people should do it, but today वो suppression जो father on deathbed, and I took such a clinical view कि मेरी this is what I have to do. आज वो completely bounce हो गया है। आज even while talking to you, I had at one point you mentioned something about how a civil servant can make an impact on a poor person's life. I start crying now. So it's a rebound. Too much suppression of emotion, it's a rebound. I think that today my life is more about I will not miss anybody's Vesna, and I will not miss today. I will go out and meet my friends. I will go and have lunch with them. So ये I think इतना suppression emotion का और इतना single mindedness वो mastery के लिए तो अच्छा है, पर एक मानसिक वो जो other human being is more than just mastery over a small, I keep repeating, silly thing of putting a ball in a pocket. So
not silly for us. Champion and inspirational personality for a lot of people who would be striving for this kind of an excellence in something which they are passionate about. You are passionate about it. You didn't take it up as one of those things that try to become great at it. You loved it so much, and hence you become great at it. So, now, do you think there is any scope for partnerships with OGQ, international partnerships, which can empower this kind of a nurturing of sporting talent, national partnerships, international partnerships? Anything you would like to pitch to an audience which would be at a decision-making level and hearing this talk eventually? What can they think of? How can they? What is your vision for OGQ? How do you plan to take it forward? And how can the government initiatives fit into
it? My answer I don't know whether it may be politically correct from my OGQ board or from their perspective, but I will still say my vision for OGQ is that in 25 years time OGQ should not be relevant and it should not exist.
Okay.
And what that means is that whatever little OGQ is doing, it will be done by some other stakeholders. It will be done. We would have formed such crack teams within every federation, within every every sporting body, within the sports ministry, within thing. There will be intelligence. There will be lots of money. There will be huge research. I mean, a research, even just doing research on what an athlete needs, should be paid cutting edge. He should be paid, or she should be paid so well that the whole ecosystem will start flourishing. So that is my real vision, and I think it's possible. I think it's possible that I hope that we achieve that state, because it will be a blissful state.
Yeah, I respect that view very much, because right now you're filling a gap. You actually don't want gaps to be there. You want the system to be so good that there's no requirement of an organization like OGQ, and things are being taken care of in the best possible manner by the system itself.
And I'm telling you, I have seen the positivity of the whole system coming in now. I mentioned in the last 15 years, there's a huge positivity. But systems, to change systems, you know, and I'm sure all civil servants and, you know, people, IPS officers and Indian foreign, to change systems is painful. It's trying, it's tiring, it's slow, but it will happen. And as long as the intent is there, I can see the intent. I can see it with the officers that we interact with in the Sports Authority of India, the federation heads that we operate in. It's changing, and that is wonderful. That itself is so good. So I got time.
I'm sure. And what you're doing is like a catalyst. It is showing to the system that sports persons like you who have been super achievers, and now you're giving your life energy to bring other people to that level. I'm sure looking at your commitment, officers will get inspired. I remember the story you were telling me when the DG of Sports Authority came to your office, to your board, to make a presentation. I can name him Sandeep Pradhan. He, instead of you calling him, he calling you to his office as normally would happen, he came to your board meeting and made a presentation that why should we work together.
It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic, and it was path breaking for us, I'm sure, and for the athletes, because it was too good. Because here, just look at it this way: the partnership. Here you have a world-class physiotherapist, which we've hired, is working with 3 athletes, OGQ supported athletes, but they are in a camp, which is the Indian camp. So why should not that world-class athlete also work with the other athletes? It's such a win-win. It's too good. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Well noted and well pointed out.
Keith, I also want you to speak about your children. Jazz in particular, because Jazz, she had that issue, if you're okay talking about it, and how she's turned that into something amazing for people who had that similar constraint from they could not escape, but then she has expanded into an opportunity of helping thousands of people. So please tell us about her.
So I'm sitting in Jazz's office.
Okay.
She runs an organization called Besties. तो मैं Besties के office में बैठा हूँ क्योंकि मेरे को technology में I did not know how to do the background, and also she's helped me and her team has helped me. So I'm actually sitting in her office. So Jazz, our daughter, 15 साल की थी, she got type 1 diabetes. So quickly, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, and a child of 1 who's 1 day old can get it, and you get it up to the age of 24, 25, I believe now even up to the age of 30. Basically, your immune system breaks down and it attacks the cells which produce insulin in your pancreas. So the only remedy is taking insulin daily. The first 5-7 years बहुत मुश्किल थे. Also adolescence, puberty, hormonal changes से बिल्कुल control नहीं हो रहा था diabetes. And then there was a wonderful doctor, and I think again coming back, her doctor's name is Ramesh Goel, her endocrinologist. So when he first came to us, he said, he called me Mr. Geet. Mr. Geet, the bad news is Jazz has type 1 diabetes. This is when we went to the hospital. He said the good news is that there is a lot of research happening in type 1, और 10 के 15 साल में we will get a cure or a very good management system for type 1 diabetes. But more importantly, that doctor, he used to pick up our phone 30 times a day, including at 12 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and 6 in the morning, and then again at 9 in the morning for almost 4, 5, 6 years. And that's the kind of service that I think we talk about. But anyway, we are talking, and I wish every medical practitioner, every civil servant can give that kind of service to their customer or client. But Jazz what happened was that about 7-8 years ago, she had, because of grace, she had got a very good management system जो आ गया था. It's called artificial artificial pancreas system. So she has all kinds of pumps on her, which do automatically put insulin in her body, and her HbA1c, which is a measure of your diabetic control, is well within control. Now, 6-7 years back, she reached out to most of the doctors in Ahmedabad, the diabetic doctors, endocrinologists, and said, give me your type 1 patients' names. She called them up and she said, because she said, Papu, it's a very lonely disease. No, first of all, parents and children hide. And Jazz herself, I remember sitting in the plane when she had to take her injection, both times stomach pain, she would say, Papu, I'll go to the toilet and take it. I said, take it in front of everybody. It's a God gift. It's not something that you've done. Anyway, but she went through that. So she reached out. She said it's a very lonely disease. It's a disease which it's a condition which parents want to suppress, children themselves want to suppress. I want to reach out to people and make a group so that So she started by just getting 60 type 1 diabetics together in type 1 diabetics in Ahmedabad and had a party, just a party. But usme se then they slowly started reaching out, they got together, and she started this foundation where she gives advocacy to parents who've just got a child who's type 1 diabetic. The child could be 1 day old, like I said, or 5 days, or 5 years old, or 10 years old. So telling them that it's okay. So that there's a whole group behind you. All the people who work in her foundation now are all type 1 diabetics. It's all lived experiences. They've all been type 1 diabetics for 10 years. Jazz herself is for 15 years. So they have this thing called back to basics. They will talk to both the child and the parents for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and tell them that it's okay, that you will manage. Diet mein ye karo to ye hoga. They are making a difference not only to the mental conditions of the children, but to the physical, pathological, and a research study has actually been done and published in the British Medical Journal, which she did with the Dr. Mohan, who's he's the number one authority on research in diabetes in India, in Chennai. With him, he has done a research study that because of these interventions, of these consultations which they are doing, the average A1C, which is the HbA1c of these childs, is going down dramatically. I mean, and she keeps saying, Papu, my biggest weakness has become my biggest strength. So yeah, God bless her. I'm sitting in the office talking to you.
My apologies for making you speak about something which is very personal to your family.
I am very proud. Both Kiran and me are proud to talk about her. She is now proud to talk about this, and we should not hide a personal condition like this. It should be inspirational for other parents and other children too.
So my learning in life also has been that any adversity, any constraint, any challenge is an opportunity in disguise. So something that you can't control. She had this issue which was beyond control. You tried to get it treated, but there are limitations to medical science. And now she's turned it on its head and become a champion for all kinds of all ages, children of all ages who have this sudden calamity on their head. To tell them it's okay, it's minor. Life is much bigger than that. So for civil servants also, for all of us in our personal life, I think I have a lot of inspirational stories which inspire me to look at myself and realize that whenever there's a downfall, there's a failure, it is something that we can grow back stronger. We can bounce back not just to previous positions, but come back much stronger, wiser, more informed, more learned. So it's been wonderful interacting with you, Geet. This was special. Thank you so much for your time. But anything you would like to add towards the end of this interaction?
No, I just want to thank this platform. I think it's a great platform. So, thank you for inviting me over here. And I'm a firm believer that, our country will be great. And it's people like you, the audience, whoever is listening to this, that is really going to make our country great. Sports people's professions is a very limited entertainment value professions, but your professions are professions where there is deep meaning, where there is deep impact. So it's you guys who are going to make our nation great, really, and it's a heavy responsibility. But you should enjoy your professions, do whatever you want with, but make a difference and do introspection every night, not once in 5 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Geet. And thank you everyone for listening in. And both of us send out the best of our wishes to you for success and for taking the country forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.